It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower. And our mission is to inspire. And our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. In this episode, we have the one and only Leza Money. That's a true name, by the way. She's in the building, and she'll be talking about how she went from a healthcare professional to a healthcare entrepreneur. Whoa, how many people want to take that leap? What's going on, Leza? How you doing?
Hi, Shay. I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm so appreciative of this platform. Thank you so much. I'm doing great.
Well, thanks for being here. I know you got a lot going on, so we appreciate your time, by the way. Take a moment. I'm curious. Folks are seeing that title, and they'll Google how successful you are. We'll get into your bio and how bad to the bone you are, and we'll talk about how famous you are and all that stuff in a little while. But they're seeing the title, and they're like, man, healthcare professional to a healthcare entrepreneur. I know this is a loaded question, but why do people struggle, do you think, a number of companies struggle to make that transition from a W-2 person to being their own boss? What's some of the challenges you think that are out there for folks?
I believe one of the main challenges, because I struggle with this myself, is the stability or the so-called stability of having a permanent check, right? Where you're kind of used to having the check coming every week, every 2 weeks, versus you're a leap of faith and you have to make it happen. And sometimes, business is cyclical. And there are times when you're up and you're getting the clients coming in consistently. And there might be a time where maybe clients are a little bit more elusive. And so it becomes a scary thing to go from that so-called security to actually becoming all about yourself on your entrepreneurial journey. So I believe that's one of the major setbacks or challenges that people have. And I found for myself that, yes, it is a challenge, but a lot of times you have to have something that makes you uncomfortable for you to move. And that's kind of how I actually started my journey. So that's where I started, jumped out, became that healthcare entrepreneur.
Now, you said you jumped out and became that. We're going to get to her story in a moment. But what do you say to the person who's like, okay, I like what I'm hearing, but how does Liz find time to take care of herself without feeling guilty? There's people on here that are dualpreneurs. A lot of folks are dualpreneurs. They work a full-time job and they're full-time entrepreneurs. Shout out to all our 9-to-5 millionaires out there. Want to give you a shout out, by the way. There's also folks out there saying, wait a minute, but I have a husband, or I have a wife, or I got a significant other, or I have kids, or my kids have a schedule. Or Shay, let her know I'm back in school, by the way. Or Shay, I'm involved in my community. Shay, just let her know I got a lot going on. How is she able to be an entrepreneur now, still take care of other responsibilities, and not feel guilty when she got to take care of herself? I know it's a loaded question. It's just very, very loaded question. But what's your thoughts on that?
Well, yes, I actually do suffer sometimes from a little bit of guilt of I'm that kind of person where if I do take 5 minutes for myself, I'm thinking about the million things that I'm also not doing. However, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not able to actually take care of someone else, right? So you have to kind of serve from a full vessel. So what I've learned over the years is that scheduling is 1000% important for me to be able to schedule the time in, not just for my responsibilities with my work or my business, but also to schedule myself in. Because if I don't, to be honest, I'm the first person that comes off the schedule. Oh, I was supposed to go to the gym. I'm supposed to go have lunch or brunch with my friends. And if a business connection comes along, I might say, I'll push that to the side. But I've learned over the years that when that happens, there is no more time on the schedule for me. And sometimes that's where it causes burnout, right? So for me, in order to prevent that, that's when you need to take that time and schedule it out for yourself.
I love it. And, I know the proverbial questions. They're like, Shay, someone's cooking in the kitchen right now and they're just listening to you like, Shay, I like what I'm hearing, but what's her story? What's the story? What's the backstory? Let her say, no, I'm out of here. I'm stepping out. Got you. We're going to come to that right now. Someone else is watching saying, Shay, I didn't read her backstory either. I didn't go Google her. I did not get a chance to read anything about her, but I like what I'm hearing. Maybe you listen to the podcast. We appreciate you because without you, we don't have a show. So thank you so much. So let's slow down for a moment. we'll speed up. Take a moment, if you would, and talk a little bit about what's the backstory that led you to doing what you're doing now. What was that defining moment? You said, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go be an entrepreneur.
Well, actually, it wasn't a thought in my mind initially. Right. When I worked in healthcare, I was a technician in sterile processing, and what happened is I got injured. And sometimes it takes a life event to happen to motivate you to get up and do something different. And that's what happened. I was unable to continue to do the job that I had. I could not get unemployment. I could not get workman's comp. It's a long, crazy story. But at the end of the day, what I could do is I could teach. So when you can't do, you teach. And that's where I kind of had the idea that was born into the business that is today. But if that had never happened and that injury never happened, I may not have ever done what I'm doing now.
Wow. For those folks that say, I'm not a natural born teacher, I mean, where did the courage come from to step out and do something that, wasn't ever on your list to do?
Actually, that's where having a community around you is important, because I didn't actually come up with the idea on my own. It was people around me in healthcare that knew me, knew that I was a good technician, and said, you have something to share. If you do it every day, you can teach this. You speak well. They encouraged me to get up and do it. I actually started out with another business, helping a friend, and that's where I got my feet wet. So I kind of maybe, I guess you would say, apprentice under them for a few years. And then I said, you know what, now it's time for me to step out on my own. So I didn't jump out immediately into my own business, but I did have to jump out and kind of make my money on my own through another company. Then I became my own entrepreneur.
And for someone out there that's sitting there saying, okay, I want to take that step, but I'm curious if she can go back in time and do it over again. That's like if you can go back and sit down with your 21-year-old self and had a week to spend with her, you might tell her some different things, right? But if you can go back now and looking back and say, wow, if I could go back to that day I decided to make the leap, here's one or two or three things I would do differently. What would it be? I'm just curious.
I think one of the things that I would have done differently if I had known was do a little bit more research in the type of business model that I wound up making for myself, knowing the ins and outs, so that I may have avoided some missteps along the way. Um, Having a team is important. So maybe, and I've been a solopreneur for a very long time, and I've done it, and you can be successful doing so. But I have learned that you can get more done if you have a team, and so maybe I would have implemented that aspect a little bit earlier on in my career as an entrepreneur.
Well, congratulations for you, because you are doing it now. Tell the folks what type of business you're in, the type of training that you do. It's unique, it's different. You're the first one I ever talked to that did this ever in my life, by the way. But so they have some context. Tell them the industry you're in and the type of training you're doing and what it does for folks once they get the certification.
Absolutely. So the industry is called sterile processing. So when you go for a surgery or procedure, and most people either have done this or know someone who has in a hospital or a surgical center, there are surgical instruments that need to be sterilized and decontaminated. There is a whole industry out there and technicians that do that. So I started out as that technician. I now train people on how to become certified nationally in order to do that actual job. So I help them get into the healthcare field and transition their lives into a new career.
And now you're in this new career. Now you're doing some amazing, amazing things out there. What does courage look like for you? Because one of the things that I like to say is that you can be fearful and still take action, right? You can be as afraid as you want, but still take it. What does courage feel like to you? And what do you tell your students who might be nervous about going through the certification and then going to work for an unknown company?
Well, courage for me is, as you said, you can be fearful, but take that first step. You don't have to know all 12 steps. You just need to know what the next step is. I found that if I know what the next step is and I take that step, the following step will reveal itself. But it's always about making sure that you just focus on what the task at hand is. And that's how I'm able to move forward. What I tell my students is one of the first things that we talk about in the beginning of my program is what's your why? because your why has to be strong enough to show up when times are tough. I actually even make them do a vision board as their first project that they do in my program. And that's more so because I know that the program, as time goes on, gets a little bit more challenging, especially for people that are working, have families. And so, going back to a school and learning can be a challenge when you already have those other responsibilities. So I say, take a look at that vision board. Remember why you're here, because the changing your career is one thing, but you have a reason why you wanted to do that. So just keep that in the back of your head.
Were you always this go-getter when you were a little bit younger? Were you always this person that went out there and went against the grain? If everybody went this way, you went some way. If everybody went straight, you was zigging. Were you always this type of person?
In my own way, yes, I didn't fit in very well, but back then in school, you want to fit in. So I didn't realize that that was actually an asset, right? So I say that to people out there who are thinking that maybe I'm a little different. I'm not going following the crowd, but sometimes you don't need to follow the crowd. You follow your own, go by what they say, your own, be to your own drum, because that's leading you to success. And don't doubt yourself, because that's something I had to learn, is that what my gut is telling me is actually the way I need to go. And when I started trusting myself, I started making better decisions.
Trusting yourself and make better decisions. Spot on. And that's the great segue to a segment we have here called Today is My January 1st. Now, for those folks who tune in for the very first time, welcome aboard, or tune in every night, I should say, at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know what we're about to do. We're about to say those magical words. You might even wait every night to say those magical words with us. You can go ahead and say it now. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to you, by the way. And for all the new folks who are tuning in for the very first time and want to know what in the LL Cool J is Shay talking about. Today is my January 1st is our personal mantra at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or really how bright and sunny the past is back there, the past no longer equals the future. And so my question for Les on the other side is really twofold. Number one, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you even hear? And number two, where was a setback? Sounds like your life's been perfect so far. Where was a setback in your life, a challenge, and how were you able to bounce back from it?
That's a great question. So for me, I've actually had two January 1st in my career where I had to bounce back from a few different challenges. So just to kind of bring you up to speed, so no, my life wasn't perfect. As I said, I started this whole journey because I got injured and I literally was home with no way of making money, and I had to find a way, right? So I did have a challenge where, and this is where I learned you don't know what you don't know. I learned the hard way that before you make moves in a different industry, and teaching is a different industry for me at the time, that you need to check and do your research. And so I actually received a cease and desist letter from the Board of Education saying, hey, you can't be out here teaching career training unless you get a license. And I didn't know that at the time. So it taught me, okay, I need to take a step back. I need to start all over again, revamp my business and start fresh, and let's do it the right way. So I learned how to maneuver my business and my business model in order to meet the needs of my client base, as well as being compliant with the state. So that was a January 1st model. And then I also learned that when times get tough, like for me, and I'll just say I have a family business. My mother was a huge part of my business. She was the face of my business in the front end. She answered the phones. All of the people knew her. And when she passed away, it put a monkey wrench in my business because it was the heart of my business, right? And so I had to learn, okay, that was something that happened. The business must move forward. I need to put in place some fail-safes, some backups, a team around me, so that if one thing happens or one person leaves, it does not mean that the business goes down. And so I had to restart again when that happened. So I have had some challenges, and I've had to restart and start my January 1st and start fresh, as if the past didn't matter. We need to start from today.
Wow. Sorry to hear that. I'm glad you were able to continue to move forward. Shows fortitude, shows a lot of force that you had to have. So congratulations to you. You know, when you got that letter and you realized it was a cease and desist, and they were like, that's it, you got to stop right now. Was the first thing in your mind, I'm out of here? Like, or did you just like, oh, I got this? I mean, I'm just curious, by the way. Like, I've had a cease and desist letter, and you don't want to know what I was thinking. But what were you thinking when they was like, no, this is real. You got to stop, like, now.
Yeah, the first thought was disbelief because I started thinking about my responsibility to my current clients, right? So I kept saying, well, I already have people, I have their careers literally in my hands. I can't stop. So I'm just gonna be honest. I had to go underground a little bit until I got my situation straight. But that was out of the my commitment to my clients. Outside of that, yeah, I went home and cried. And then I got up and said, we're going to have to figure out how to do this. So I got with some people that are smarter than me, and we came up with a game plan, and we did some research and was able to come up with a business model that meets the needs of the state, and I'm able to do my business legitly without any interference. So it was a challenge. It really was, but we made it work.
And you talk about work with other people. You mentioned that a couple of times, being part of a team, getting some advice. One of my 12 rules for life is collaboration crushes competition. Take a moment to talk about being open to other people's view of the world, because oftentimes we think we've got to have the idea. It has to come from us. If it doesn't come from us, well, it's not going to happen. How are you able to work with different people with different points of views and different opinions? And sometimes you might not agree with it, but you feel it's the right thing to do. So I guess the question is, how are you able to work with multiple people with multiple personalities to bring them together for the good of you?
Again, that's a challenge, but it's all about what is the core purpose. We're all here for a reason. And so, whoever I'm collaborating with, we all have a centralized focus. And as long as we're focused on whatever that goal is, we can have a difference of opinion, but compromise is going to be essential, right? Because on a team environment doesn't require compliance 100% from everybody to have the same thought because there's no diversity with that. If I just wanted my own opinion, I can just talk to myself, right? So I look to speak to other people with a difference of opinion sometimes because it helps me bounce ideas off of those individuals. And that's what happened. One of the things that I did have in the beginning, like I said, I was encouraged to do this. There were people around me that said, Lisa, you need certain people to kind of be your advisors in order to start a business. Because at the time I had never done that. And I took that mindset of being able to take advisement from other people, even if they weren't in my industry, simply because they were successful in their industry. Some nuances of what they were doing can also translate into mine. So I was never closed minded to other ideas from other people. If it doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for me. So I kind of eat the fish and spit out the bones type of thing. And that's what I learned early on.
What does success look like for you these days?
Success for me looks like having a day off. But actually, I'm looking to expand my program. So I'm in the process of expanding my offering in terms of my teaching and my classes, working more collaboratively with some healthcare industry folks, and just kind of expanding the message.
What do you enjoy most about being an entrepreneur? I mean, like, what's one of the things you just enjoy? Like, I just love this part of entrepreneurship.
Something I love about it is the freedom to control what my destiny looks like. Right? It's nice to have some security behind because I do actually have an actual job. However, I do like the side where I can make my own decisions, where it's up to me, whether I'm successful or not, and I have to bet on myself. And that part kind of gets me going in the morning, where I know I got this and I can do this. But it took a while to get there.
You've had so many mentors along this journey of life. One of my favorite questions I like to ask when we have time, we got a few minutes now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? I like to frame it for the audience. You're not coming off the mountain with the 10 commandments here, but you've had mentors you work with, you've read books, you've watched YouTube videos, I'm sure, more trainings, AIs, a lot of things you've had. But if you had to step back and say, man, one of the best pieces of advice that's ever been given to me that I want to pass to the audience to help them live their best life or dream life, what would it be?
Honestly, it might sound a little cliche, but always being open to learning and being teachable and coachable. So I'm the teacher, but I learn from my students or from other people every day. If I'm not open and having an open mind to that, then I wouldn't be where I am, because I would have closed off fresh ideas. I would have closed off being able to be flexible. That's another thing, being flexible in your business. I had to learn a couple of things I mentioned. You have to learn how to pivot sometimes. And so being able to have that agility is important in business, as far as I've learned.
Yeah. How important is that? That is so cool. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days?
I actually enjoy the transformation of the client. So one of the things that I have to always remember is I've been teaching for a very long time at this point. It doesn't to not get tired of teaching the same things. I teach the same classes. I have to remember that this is actually a career move for someone else. So seeing them go from whatever industry they're in and being successful. Honestly, to this day, I actually work with some of my students, and their supervisors, their directors, they have elevated in their positions. And just to watch that transition makes me proud that they came through with the program, and I had a little small part in helping them get to that point.
I love it. What do you do for fun when you're not out saving the world and you're not out helping people teach and stuff like that? What does fun look like for you?
Binge watching Netflix. I'm gonna be honest, and I'm a foodie, so that's what I got time for. But I do like to go to the beach. I love to travel, so that would be my other favorite pastime.
Oh, cool. Now, what's one of your favorite type of foods that you like?
Well, I'm a vegan, so
Okay.
I do like some of your vegan junk foods. Not too great, but vegan cheesesteaks. I'm from Philly, so I
Okay.
do like a
They
few of
got
those
vegan
foods. But
cheesesteaks
yeah,
in Philly?
they do. They got vegan cheesesteaks. Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that. I'm in Washington, D.C. I didn't know that. See, I learn something new every single day. But as we come down the home stretch, two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your training company looking to take on these days, if any? And if folks want to connect with you, learn more about what you're doing, learn more about the career, learn more about the industry, what website, where should they go, where should they find you, what should they do?
Okay, so yes, in terms of where you can find me, you can always go to our website, which is sterileprocessinguniversal.com. You can find me at on LinkedIn, Leza Money. You can connect with me there. So there's a few other options. You want to go to our Instagram, it's at sterile process and the letter U. So yeah, it's plenty of things that I'm looking for in terms of a client. Anyone who is interested in changing their career, looking to get into healthcare. The industry that I'm in, sterile processing, is an entry level position. It's a great career. It's a national certification, so you don't have to worry about, well, what state are you in? You can go anywhere in the world and do this job. So it's something that is for maybe someone coming out of high school. I talk to a lot of young people who may not necessarily know that they want to go to college or not know what their career path looks like. So I always tell them, hey, why don't you do this, get into the hospital, and once you decide what you want to do, you can always have the hospital pay for your schooling to send you back to school to do whatever you want. So yeah, we have those clients. We also have people who are, maybe they're being downsized in their work, and they're looking for a more stable industry such as healthcare. Healthcare isn't going anywhere. It doesn't take 2-3 years to learn how to do this. It's a pretty fast turnaround, and you can be to work and starting a new career in less than a year.
Wow, less than a year, you can have a whole new career, a whole new life, and be doing what you're doing, smiling on the other side. That's kind of cool. Thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We appreciate it. By the way, shout out to Kenneth for connecting us, and I can't wait to have you back again soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Shay.
Thank you. And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, because, without you, we don't have a show. Okay, we don't have a show. And I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you're going to that next level of success, whatever that next level looks like for you, or you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming. The one thing I do believe is that today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown. It ain't changed. The Happy Entrepreneur. We out of here. God bless. Thanks a lot, Liz, man. I appreciate you. Peace, everybody. And we'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.